Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing well. So you will recall in my last video I said I wasn't sure if I was going to do another video this year, but as it happens, although things are quite busy at the moment, I thought I'd fit in just one more to round off the year. After this, I've got some friends visiting and I'll be traveling a bit over Christmas and the New Year, so I thought I'd just get one done to keep the momentum of the channel going. So that's what we're doing today, continuing with my existing CD collection, and this is a video I've been looking forward to doing for a long time. So the t-shirt may be a giveaway if you can read it, but if you're a fan, you know. So yes, the band I'm going to be talking about today is IMMORTAL, and showing my IMMORTAL CD collection. So for most of you, IMMORTAL won't need an introduction. They are one of probably the greatest black metal bands of all time, and certainly one of the top-notch Norwegian black metal bands, at least in my opinion. And yeah, definitely one of my favorite bands of all time. Like in terms of black metal, my top three bands are Marduk, IMMORTAL, and Dark Throne. And with IMMORTAL, I've been listening to them, it's hard to believe, for almost 30 years. The first time I heard them was in 1994. At that time, you know, you couldn't just look things up on the internet. The internet didn't really exist in a mainstream context, but listening to community metal radio, they played Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss, and it was quite ironic because after that, the DJ said, a band called IMMORTAL there, and that's a track from their album Pure Holocaust. Amazing to think, he said, a band called IMMORTAL there, what they've become, just one of the biggest names in black metal of all time. But yeah, fantastic band in my opinion, and they've had a very diverse history. So when I go through my CD collection today, we're going to cover that. Just to let you know, I can't do an official ranking because, believe it or not, I don't own two of their albums. So two of the albums which I don't own are All Shall Fall. I've heard parts of it, it seems okay, but I don't actually own it. And also the new one, War Against All. Because where I live, I can't just walk down to the record store and pick it up. In fact, where I live, we don't even have a record store, so I have to travel to another city, and black metal is hard to get hold of. So I don't have the new one yet, but from what I've heard, I've liked it. So I'm going to talk about the other 8 albums today, but what I'm going to do is kind of like an informal ranking, where I rank out of 8, you know, in terms, so rank these albums, which I do own, of the 8, you know, my favorites. So, but I'm going to go through in chronological order because this is my existing CD collection. So if that doesn't make sense, hopefully it will once I get started, so let's go. All right, the first album I'm going to talk about today, the band's debut album. This is IMMORTAL with Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism. Now you've heard me probably talk about this album before on this channel in various threads. Spoiler alert, this is my favorite IMMORTAL album of all time, without a doubt. It's not the first one I heard though, but yeah, this is their debut album. Came out in 1991, I think, and what I really like about this album is, even for black metal at that time, it's just completely original. IMMORTAL have their own sound. It sounds nothing like Mayhem, nothing like Dark Throne, nothing like Burzum. Part of that to do is to do with Abbott's vocals, but there's also other elements too. So on this album, this is probably one of the more atmospheric albums where it took a lot of inspiration from Bathory. Like you can definitely hear that Bathory sound, especially with the sort of mid-paced marching riffs and drum rhythms and everything. But in addition to that, this band forged something completely unique when they made this album. So you might have heard me mention before, what's interesting about this album compared to other black metal albums is, while it's cold, it's not all harsh and blistering. It's actually driven by the rhythm section. So it's sort of like the drumming is primarily mid-paced most of the time, and the bass is very audible, and the guitar, as I've said before, is sort of like a snowstorm effect over the top, but it sounds just really powerful and atmospheric. In addition to the drums being mid-paced, there are also some blast beat sections too, but they're not overly fast. That's the drumming from Armageddon. So it's sort of, it's not overly chaotic, but it gives the variety in tempos in the songs. But yeah, what I love about this album the most is just the atmosphere, because it's very raw. The production sounds murky and eerie and mysterious. Just absolutely perfect, and this cover art fits it completely. So yeah, it starts off with an acoustic guitar intro, which sounds very similar to Bathory's Odin's Ride over Nordland from Bloodfire Death. So immediately you get the Bathory influence. Then it starts with Call of the Winter Moon, and that's just got some excellent mid-paced riffs, great drumming again, like very catchy. Although that did have a ridiculous video clip, I know, but the song is brilliant. And then without a doubt, my favorite song on the album is the next one, Unholy Forces of Evil. Just so atmospheric, atmospheric again, and like really eerie, like especially with the drumming, Armageddon's drumming like on the ride cymbal, like you know, so it's not just hammering away the whole time, but with the bass sound and Abbott's, you know, gurgled monotone vocals, it sounds great, and I mean that in a good way, definitely. That song actually interestingly features a blistering guitar solo, which they didn't really do so much early on in their career, but yeah. And in addition to that, you hear some parts of the song where they have these drum breakdowns where it sounds like small explosions, but just so great, and the chanted vocals sound so evil, so that's fantastic. Then you have Cryptic Winter Storms, which is more of a sort of reflective song and some acoustic guitars, so really atmospheric again. You have to bear with me here because the script is so tiny, but I think I know the order of the songs anyway. Yeah, then you have Cold Winds of Funeral Dust. That's probably my second favorite track on the album. Oh, then it's hard to say, there's so many, but that has some just great vocal patterns and eerie grooves, which are fantastic. So yeah, the vocal patterns really drive the song as well on that particular song. Then what's next? Yeah, Blacker Than Darkness. That's sort of like a groovy mid-pace one again, which is great. And then the album concludes with a brilliant climax, which is a perfect vision of the rising Northland, and it is a perfect song. So that starts off, you know, very slowly and like a eerie with some acoustic guitars, and then it launches into this mid-paced riff, and it's also got some really eerie, icy, evil sounding keyboards in that song. So like especially the climax where he says, "A wind of red-eye road, a wind of evil cold," and then the keyboards and the guitar solo come in, just brilliant. So actually I will correct myself, that's probably my favorite song on the album, A Perfect Vision of the Rising Northland, followed by Unholy Forces of Evil and Cold Winds of Funeral Dust, but certainly no bad tracks on here. So here's the back here, blurry underground photo. This is when the band was a three-piece, so it's Abbott and Demonaz on bass and vocals and guitar, and then Armageddon on drums. He had a kind of, he looked a bit like Abaddon from Venom, you know, like curly mullet and aviators, which is cool. And I really like his drumming style on this album because it doesn't drown out the musicianship. But quite minimalist here. You've got all of the lyrics and just the disc. And you see this cover art, it's so iconic. Incidentally, when I was in Norway last year, I actually specially visited this. I coaxed my friends into taking me there. It's at a place just outside Bergen in Norway called Lusekloster, which is like this abbey in the middle of a field surrounded by a pine forest. So it's so black metal, it's not funny, you know. And in the day, like you just see it. It's all these stone ruins surrounded by grass, but you can imagine it must have been so atmospheric for them at night coming here, breathing fire and taking these photos. But yes, absolute classic. And I won't say any more about it because I've rambled on enough, but this is undoubtedly my #1 IMMORTAL album, and their first, that's IMMORTAL with Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism. All right, so now moving on to the band's second album. I'll just take this out of the case to avoid the glare. This is IMMORTAL with Pure Holocaust. So another classic, iconic album by this band, and this is the first one I ever heard by the band. So first of all, just to quell any concerns from people, yeah, the title has nothing to do with Nazism or World War II. If you read IMMORTAL's lyrics, it's all, you know, fantasy oriented. And that's the funny thing actually. In the first album, this was the only album that had references to Satanism and Satan and pentagrams burning. After that, they embarked on their own lyrical theme, which I'll talk about. Yeah, but this is more black metal fantasy on this album, absolutely not a political album. But yeah, this was the first album I ever heard. As I said, on community radio, I heard the song Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss, and what struck me immediately about this band was Abbott's like monotone gurgle vocals. Like, I know a lot of people don't like them, but to me, I just thought, oh, it sounds so original compared to a lot of other black metal vocalists, which were screaming. But yeah, this album, it was the second black metal album I ever got into. So I've mentioned before, the very first black metal bands I heard in my life were Abruptum and Impaled Nazarene. The first black metal band I properly got into was Emperor. The second one was IMMORTAL with this album. So this is probably the most influential album for me. This is characterized, in comparison to Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism, it's ditched the Bathory influences in an overt way. This album is much more aggressive. It's a lot faster, like the speeds are blistering, The drumming is completely out of control, insane, and that they were performed by Eric, this guy here. There were rumors that he was only credited as a member, but Abbott actually played the drums. I'm not sure, but in any case, the speeds are blistering on this album. And what characterizes this album, there's no acoustic guitars or anything, no somber parts. It's blistering all the way, but just these really harsh, cold riffs, which are enhanced by the production, where it makes the riffs sound like the equivalent of a snowstorm. But in addition to that, they're very piercing and striking. So in my older age, as I listen to this, I just appreciate how melodic this album is. There are some really piercing, cold melodies in the guitars, and like when there are mid-pace sections, but when the drumming is blasting, it's just out of this world, incredibly fast. Yeah, so it opens up with Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss, great bouncy riff in that, and brilliant vocals, and the blast beats are incredibly fast. Then track 2, A Sign for the Norse Hordes to Ride. Amazing, melancholic, bleak riff in that song, you know, before the actual lyrics start. And then the same at the end, like those guitar melodies at the end, just so bleak and wintry and melancholic. It's brilliant. Then we've got The Sun No Longer Rises, which is a bit Bathory-esque. It starts with a mid-pace head-banging riff. Like, you cannot not bang your head to that song. Did I make sense there? But yeah, awesome. And then again, when it launches into full speed, it's blistering fast. Also some great lyrics in that song, like, I believe in tragedies, I believe in desecration. The lyrics of Immortal are unique but brilliant. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with them anyway. Then you've got Frozen by Ice Winds. Great title, first of all. That has some really eerie, dark, sinister sounding riffs in that. And brilliant, warped, twisted vortex of a guitar solo at the end, which is just otherworldly. And again, brilliant lyrics in that song, like at one with the earth, alone with the night. In my eyes, the ravens circle around my tomb as I dream into the night. Frozen by ice winds. Wow. So that's awesome. Then track 5 is a blistering one, Storming Through Red Clouds and Holocaust Winds. Classic title. That's got a brilliant chorus, and I love the concluding line, and that, demonized by the closing Nordic lights. Just so much atmosphere in the music and lyrics. Then we've got Eternal Years on the Path to the Cemetery Gates. Just eerie sounding riffs and sort of a mid-pace catchy rhythm, which is great, and the vocal patterns match that. Then track 7, As the Eternity Opens. That is kind of Bathory-esque because it's mid-paced again, but just such a great epic track. And the icy keyboards at the end come as a real surprise, because on the rest of the album you don't hear keyboards except for in that song, so it really has an effect. And then it concludes with Pure Holocaust, which has just got great riffs once again, and excellent lyrics in that song again, like stand in the fog with so cold a heart, watching the death of the sun. Yeah, just I love the lyrics of Immortal, and the music, they just match. So yes, this is an absolute classic. You probably know it, but if we're talking about rankings, so Diabolical Fullmoon is my favorite. That's number 1. This would come in at a close number 2. It was the first one I heard, and I still love it. So that's Immortal with Pure Holocaust. And just showing you here, all of the lyrics, it's quite minimalist. This is the original one. I bought it in like 95. Broken cover there. Yep, when the band was still a 3-piece, so Demonaz, Abbott, and Eric on drums, supposedly. So Immortal with Pure Holocaust. Okay, coming up to the third album for the day. Now this one might confuse some people when I show the cover, but I will clarify that. So the next album which Immortal released was Battles in the North. So some people might be saying, no, that's not the cover of Battles in the North. That's right, that's because this one's limited edition. This is the traditional one, most people are familiar with that. Great, iconic one, so this is another one of my favorites, so I've got it on vinyl. Brilliant. But anyway, this CD version of Battles in the North, it's a limited edition one, like kind of tribal, Nordic. Like I don't think it's as good as the original, but I'm glad to have this. This album, I'll be honest with you, the first song I heard was Blashert Mighty Raven Dark, which they made a video clip for, which I bought the VHS for back in the day. That's a mid-paced, catchy, atmospheric track. So when I had heard that song and I bought this album, I was really excited. You might think I'm crazy, but when I first heard this album, I was disappointed, and I couldn't really stand it, to be honest, because to me at that time, I was already familiar with Pure Holocaust, but I'd never heard this, and this one just sounded very chaotic and messy. Like, there wasn't much of a tune. It was just like a noise and chaos going on. But as the years have gone by, as my ear has become more trained to extreme music, I've realized just how ingenious this album is. It's the riffs and the melodies are actually very memorable once you get to know the album, but it might take a few listens. So I would say, if imagine you never knew Immortal or you'd never heard them, I wouldn't recommend starting with this one because it's a bit hard to digest immediately. Like some people, it's sort of like an endless maze of mirrored riffs and blast beat drumming, but it does have some good qualities, so I'm going to get into that. This album, they were going for a really frostbitten sound, and they achieved that in spades. Like, the production is so harsh, but it fits the coldness of the music so well. The drumming is just blasting relentlessly in this, and the drums were actually performed by bassist and vocalist Abbott, and he's an absolute maniac on the kit. I know in the video clip of another song on this album, Grim and Frostbitten Kingdoms, they credited Hellhammer, but I think from Mayhem, but I think he was just in the video clip. But it was actually Abbott who played the drums on this album. So the drumming's not perfect all the time, but man, he can play fast and aggressively, that's for sure. But yeah, this album, it's sort of the equivalent of being caught in a chaotic snowstorm. But there are so many memorable riffs and melodies once you get past the drumming. Like, the drumming is just blasting relentlessly. But what you need to do is like distance yourself from that and listen to the riffs carefully. And then once they click, it's amazing. They're actually really memorable songs. And what was I going to say about that? So, oh yeah, the riffs, they have this kind of, the way it's produced, like the riffs, they almost sound like they're hummed. Yeah, I mean, they're not, they're played by bass and guitar, but it's like, maybe it's the bass in the background, but I actually I've grown to love the production on this album. I've grown to love the songs. But as I said, it's a very extreme album. So I'm just going to put this one down for a second and refer, because they took a leaf out of Rotting Christ book, and on this special limited edition, they listed all the songs in the incorrect order. Fuck, I hate that. Why don't you just make it clear and put them in the order as they appear? So I'm just going to refer to my vinyl copy here. So it starts off with the title track, Battles in the North, which is great. Oh no, they've done it here too. They put them out of order, why oh why. But yeah, track 2, Grim and Frostbitten Kingdoms, is excellent. Great guitar solo in that. That's another one that they made a video clip for. One of my favorite tracks is track 3, Descent into Eminent Silence, just because it features those like bleak hummed riffs which sound fantastic. And then, oh, I can actually test my memory. I do remember. Then after that, I think it's Moonrise Fields of Sorrow. That's a blistering fast track. Great driving force and rhythm in that song. And just the melodies, like in between the vocals, are fantastic. So that's one of my favorite songs, definitely, Moonrise Fields of Sorrow. Then Throned by Blackstorms, fantastic, and I love the vocals in that part where, like, Abbott's voice is low and gurgly anyway, but it almost sounds like the batteries are getting low, like he goes, from Throne of the North. and then Throned by Blackstorms, it's brilliant. Then coming after that, we have Cursed Realm of the Winter Demons, great clean guitar to start that song, and then just blasts away, fantastic. And the next 3 songs, which don't grab me as much, but I still like a lot, are, what's next? Circling Above in Time Before Time, although that has a good melodic end, and At the Stormy Gates of Mist. Like, at the very least, these songs are still good, they're catchy enough. And Through the Halls of Eternity has some atmosphere at the end with the echoed vocals, and then it concludes with the sort of mid-paced, atmospheric, Bathory-esque Blashirk Mighty Raven Dark. And it was actually on this album where the band started coming into their own with the lyrical content. So they ditched all themes of, sort of anti-Christianity and Satanism and occultism, and they went in favor of writing about the mythical realm of Blashirk and the Raven Dark Kingdom, which is sort of like a mythical version of Antarctica or something. Just this dark, icy realm, which I think is ingenious. The music suits it because, as I said, it sounds frostbitten and very snowy and cold. So, just show you the disc for this limited edition version, black and white, still with the original logo, track listing with songs out of order. And what's cool about this one is the inner booklet, it folds out into a bloody fan, sorry. A poster, so very nice. Maybe one day I'll hang that actually. And then I love this inlay too. the Masters of Nebula Frost, so Demon as an Abbot, and I think that was from the filming of the Blashek Mighty Raven Dark video clip. So definitely watch the video clips from this album, which are Grim and Frostbitten Kingdoms and Blashek Mighty Raven Dark. Yeah, classic. So in terms of ranking, this would be my third favorite. So first is Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism, then Pure Holocaust, then this one. But don't worry, my ranking is not just going chronologically, as you will see. But fantastic album. This one might take a while to grow on you, but once it does, it's fucking awesome. So that's Immortal with Battles in the North. Okay. Oh, should have got a glass of water. My mouth's getting dry with all this talking. Okay, coming up next. The next album released by Immortal was Blizzard Beasts. So you can see here they've gone back to being a three-piece. They added Hog on drums, who's stayed actually ever since this album, despite the various lineup changes over the years. First of all, I love this iconic cover art. You know, it doesn't even have the logo, it just shows them in the snow. And track listing on the back. So what characterizes this album is, this one is incredibly fast, maybe even faster than Battles in the North, which is saying something. But the difference is because they got Hog in on drums, they reined in the chaos. So this album sounds more like controlled chaos. Whereas on Battles in the North, the drumming was often spiraling out of control, like like this one, like Hog is a very competent drummer, and his drumming is just, it holds everything together so well, like so precisely executed. And the riffs on this one are absolutely razor sharp. It's sort of got a thrashy stop-start feel to some of the riffs. And yeah, I know a lot of people don't like the production on this album. They say it sounds a little bit compressed. But I actually like it because everything's neat and precise. So, you know, sort of because of the technicality and the speed of the riffs, you kind of need that on this album, I think. And in addition to that, the vocals sound very in your face because there's almost no reverb. So it sounds like, you know, literally in your face, like the vocals are being said right next to you or something. But that adds charm to this album. So it starts off with like an eerie, icy keyboard intro, then goes straight into Blizzard Beast with some great thrashy riffs, and I like the thrashy riffs at the end of that song where he says, "We convoke nebula dimensions, as real as realms the ride, we ride with none above, at none at side." Dun, 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 dun. Great. Nebula Raven's Winter is just a classic song, like brilliant melodies in that, and excellent guitar solos. You know, when he says, "Mesmerize you fall in my domain, freezing in the heart." Oh, so good. And the drumming, like you hear a lot of tom-tom fills in that song. Actually, this shirt is Nebula Raven's Winter. It's got the lyrics on the back, you know, "In the Nebula Raven's winter, winds are known from where they blow." So that's a fantastic song, one of Immortal's staple songs. Then Suns That Sank Below, I love that song, like just the way, like it's going, like it's got these kind of melodic riffs at the start, but then when the drums stop and it goes into Abbott's vocals with the thrashy riff, like dun, 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 and the drums kick in, just badass, awesome. So Suns That Sank Below is another one of my favorites. Battlefields is also a great song. That's a very fast sort of stop-start song with a lot of blast beats, like dun, 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 but like the playing is so fast in that. But then there are also catchy mid-sections as well. I love the lyrics in that song, so I'm always singing along to Battlefields. It's amazing because they have these sort of fast, technical, thrashy riff sections, but then like just epic mid-paced galloping sections as well. So it's fantastic. That's followed by Mountains of Might, which is an iconic song. Starts off with some atmospheric keyboards. This is a song where they actually slow down and they focus more on melody. And for the first time ever, they're sort of including some clean, somber melodic parts in the middle. You know, the section in the middle, which is so atmospheric, is Icicle Peaks as far as the eye can see, I reign this place alone. Awesome song. Now, it's only the last three tracks which don't grab me as much, and they are Noctambulant, Winter of the Ages, and Frost Demon Storm. Not that they're bad tracks at all. In fact, I really like Winter of the Ages, especially the guitar solo at the end, which is juxtaposed with the vocals. It's fantastic. Just Noctambulant is not as catchy. And Frost Demon Storm, though, does have some good technical riffs, thrashy riffs at the end, like yeah. So this album, it's fast, it's technical, but the chaos is reined in, as I said. So it's very precisely executed, thanks to Horde's drumming, and it's got a weird production, but I think that gives it charm. Sorry, all this talking is making my throat dry. So have a look at the cover, and it comes on this rough paper, and yeah, it's still got it's got this unique cardboard smell, so even the packaging has charm on this. And yeah, you've just got all of the lyrics. Yeah, so they're still continuing with those kind of snowy, wintry themes on this album. But yeah, a lot of people don't like this one because they think it's either the production sounds bad. It's not bad, it's just, you know, the vocals are very in your face and it's a bit of a thin production, but I think it's got charm and it suits the style of the music. I remember at a Mayhem concert in Australia, I overheard one person talking, going, Blizzard Beats is pretty shit. And I said, no, it's not, fuck that. It's an excellent album. So, coming into my rankings, this one would rank 5th in my favorites. So I've already mentioned 1, 2, and 3. There is another album which I like even more than this that we'll get to. But out of the 8 I own, this is my 5th favorite. And I'll just say on that note, there are no bad IMMORTAL albums in my opinion. So even the one that comes 8th, I still really love it. So that's, anyway, this comes in at number 5, IMMORTAL with Blizzard Beasts. All right, and I'm going to just take a break for a minute. Okay, so just back with a drink. This is just Coca-Cola, which I don't normally drink, but I just use it to mix with whiskey. But I don't have any water today. Okay, so now we're coming up to the next album, which marks a new era in IMMORTAL's career. This is IMMORTAL with At the Heart of Winter. So the reason why this marks a new era, because at this time, the band became a two-piece again. And the person to leave this time was not the drummer, it was actually guitarist and founding member Demonaz, who was also the lyricist. The reason he quit at the time was because he had tendinitis in his arms. You know, I think from playing and practicing too much. Like I remember reading in an interview, Abbott said around the Blizzard Beasts era, Demonaz was rehearsing on his own for 3 hours before the band rehearsal. And with the playing on Blizzard Beasts, I'm not surprised he got tendinitis in his arms because they were just fast technical riffs. But anyway, so on this album, Abbott took over on guitars as well. So he effectively did guitars, bass, and vocals. And then Hogg continued on drums. But Demonaz continued as the band's lyricist and manager at this point. So first of all, this album is marked by a much more accessible sound. So what I mean by that is the production is a lot better. This was produced by Peter Tegtren from Hypocrisy in Abyss Studios. So a much more polished sound, nothing wrong with that. And also Abbott said he wanted to play songs which he felt more comfortable playing on guitar because he was like managing all of the musical instruments, so to speak. So this album is characterized by more sort of mid-paced, catchy, melodic songs. And it's a lot more atmospheric than the previous albums. The previous albums were all sort of like all guns blazing, speed, go as fast as you can. This album was more, let's tone it down a bit with more atmosphere and melody. And I remember ABBA saying that a lot of the riffs reminded him of early Creator in a way. So like it's more melodic. So I think, you know, to someone who's never heard IMMORTAL before, this would be a very accessible album to start with, for sure. And yeah, the riffs are catchy, the songs are memorable, definitely. Every song clocks in at about 6 to 8 minutes, so it's an epic album. 6 tracks. Now, I will say this about the album, this is going to surprise some people, but out of the 8 albums I'm showing today, this is my 7th favorite. And, what the fuck, how can you say that? That's people's reaction, I'm sure. I know a lot of people who say this is their favorite, and I totally get it, but just for me, there are some, you know, some of these earlier albums which have more nostalgic value for me. But I'll also get into this. With this album, I do like all of the songs, but there are a couple which don't grab me as much, which are probably the ones in the middle actually. Tragedies, Blows at Horizon, Where Dark and Light Don't Differ, and At the Heart of Winter. Now, I do like those songs, but they're just not as memorable as the other ones. But Tragedies, Blows at Horizon has some like, and yeah, I know the grammar's incorrect, but that's how it's written. Yeah, that has some very memorable lyrics in that song. Where Dark and Light Don't Differ has a great guitar solo, and At the Heart of Winter has a great atmospheric, clean guitar and keyboard intro, which is great. So they are good songs, but definitely my favorites are the first track, Withstand the Fall of Time, just such a great opening track, very melodic guitars in that song, and that's introducing the listener to, okay, that's what this album is about, so it's fantastic. Now, my favorite track on the album is undoubtedly track 2, Solar Fall, just great mid-paced riffs in that song, so catchy, and it features some very atmospheric, clean guitars. When I saw this band at Wacken in the year 2000, I think Iscario was playing on bass. Yeah, like when Abbott did the clean guitars on Solar Fall. It was just so atmospheric, you know, raising his hand. It was brilliant, so I love that track. And my other favorite track is actually track 6, Years of Silent Sorrow, which is a mid-paced track, very reflective, a bit melancholic, but great vocals in that song, great lyrics, and it is a sorrowful track. So yeah, like I said, the 3 tracks in the middle, I do like them, but they're not as memorable. My favorites are Withstand the Fall of Time, Solar Fall, and Years of Silent Sorrow. Yeah, so yes, it is my 7th favorite out of the 8, but as I said, every album I'm showing today I love. So I'm not saying this is bad at all, it's just I like certain other albums more. All right, so you see this is the first album with color, which doesn't feature the band on the front, which was interesting. Still got the old logo there, but introducing people to the new one. Now, this is where I thought the presentation was a bit ridiculous. You'll see what I mean. So you've got all the lyrics here and the band, but some of these shots of the band are a bit ridiculous. Like that. Like, I have a sense of humor, and I know bands are saying, oh, don't take yourself too seriously. Like, look at this. But at the same time, while having a sense of humor, you don't need to make your music like a parody of black metal. Like, in terms of the presentation, they're probably thinking we don't take ourselves too seriously. But I think, yeah, you can have a sense of humor, but still present your art seriously. But anyway, that's just me, and it's their band, so anyway. But yeah, great album. So as I said, if you've never heard Immortal, and you would like an accessible album to start with, this is by all means a good one, and it is a great album. So that's Immortal with At the Heart of Winter. Okay, now coming up next, we have the sister album of At the Heart of Winter, what I consider it to be. All right, and in my opinion, this is a damned underrated album. Oh, and that was no pun intended, but anyway, this is Immortal with Damned in Black, which came out just maybe 1 year after At the Heart of Winter. Yeah, I think this came out in 2000. So you can see here, the band is a 3-piece again, but not with Demonaz. Iscaria became the bassist. So it's Abath on guitar and vocals, Horg on drums, Iscaria on bass. And yeah, when I say this is the sister album of At the Heart of Winter, it sort of has the same production. But the difference is, it's not as much of an epic album as At the Heart of Winter. This one is much more straightforward and aggressive. It has faster sections, but I just think the songs on this are so well composed. It's a criminally underrated Immortal album. So like, yeah, these two, they sort of go hand in hand, but without a doubt, I prefer this one for sure. Just great driving riffs, fast sections, memorable songs, and some really sort of aggressive blast beats as well. Like a lot of people said, I remember reading in some magazines, they said musically it has more in common with death metals, with that sort of aggressive, fast approach, but obviously lyrics and vocals are still black metal. But yeah, it opens with Triumph, which is fantastic. Got some excellent blast beats in that song, and I love the line, you know, Triumph, our battle will be won, and the riff which follows, so good. Track 2, Wrath from Above, as I read in one magazine, about 10 seconds into that song, the riff, it's like Dying for Hair Flowing in the Wind video treatment, and I agree. And just got some, you know, just these memorable mid-paced rhythms in it, and I love the breakdown in that song, you know, dan, 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 and like even the drums, they're so simplistic. Like most people would expect hammering double bass drums in that, but instead Horg is just playing a simple rhythm, but it's so catchy, so good. Amongst the Tide is sort of an atmospheric slow song with some keyboards. Now, going into some of my favorite tracks on the album, My Dimension, such a great chorus in that, excellent vocals, I really love it. You know, just the breakdown after the chorus when he says, I'll show you a dimension that's higher, it's great. At The Darkness That Embraced Me, a brilliant song again, that uses some keyboards, which is fantastic. And is that the one? Yeah, The Darkness That Embraced Me, that's probably my favorite track. So yeah, and then looking at In Mystic Visions, Blessed, that's got some interesting melodies, like which make the song very memorable. And it ends with Damned in Black, which is sort of like a typical Immortal song. But yeah, like I said, in comparison to At the Heart of Winter, it's got the same kind of production, produced by Peter Tegtren again, same drum sound. But I think the band was going for a more simple, straightforward, and less epic approach. It's fast and aggressive, but so well produced, and the songs are so memorable. So, without a doubt, my favorite songs on this, Triumph, Wrath from Above, And probably my two absolute favorites are My Dimension and The Darkness That Embraced Me, but the whole album is absolutely superb. You don't hear many people talking about this one so much, and I don't understand why. Having a look inside, you've got the booklet with the lyrics and photos of the band, and not as goofy and ridiculous as the previous one, which is good. Yep, so Immortal, Damned in Black. So you might be curious where this ranks for me. This is number 4. So yes, yeah, it comes in number 4th, just beating even Blizzard Beasts in my opinion, because I think the songs are so memorable and so well produced. I just love this album. So whatever you do, if you haven't heard Immortal, check this album out for sure. So that's Immortal with Damned in Black, the unsung hero of Immortal's catalogue, in my opinion. Okay. All right, coming up next. This is an album that took me ages to buy. And then I was thinking, why the hell did you take so long? This is Immortal with Sons of Northern Darkness. So this came out in the early 2000s, I think 2003. Still the same lineup, like Abath, Horg, and Iscaria on bass. And the reason I didn't buy this at the time is because maybe it was my young elitist mindset at the time, but I was thinking, oh, Immortal is now going in this well-produced, safe direction. And I think I was put off by the title actually, which is Sons of Northern Darkness. Nothing wrong with that per se, except you'll know from the early days, you know, the pure Holocaust t-shirt, which I used to own, down the sleeves it said Sons of Northern Darkness. So I thought, oh, this is getting a bit samey, they're just recycling ideas, but so the hell what, I should have given a listen to the music. And then when I did, I was thinking, what the hell took you so long? This album is fucking great. I actually love this album. Of all of the Immortal albums I own, this is probably the one I've listened to the least, and in that sense, it's the freshest. But what you have here, you could say it's similar to At the Heart of Winter, maybe, but they're also trying some new ideas. You've got even slower songs, so like not even mid-pace, but sort of slow marching songs, but they have so much melody and so much atmosphere that they're just catchy, but there's some variety in tempo, like you get some blast beats, you get some fast sections as well, so it's really got everything. But they're just becoming more and more creative, you know, with their melodies on this album. So it starts off with One by One, which is a typical Immortal track. Sons of Northern Darkness is good, but where the album really gets going for me is track 3, Tyrants. That's a slow, marching, rhythmed track, but as I said yesterday on my Instagram post, just an iconic song. The riff is so catchy. Abath's vocals are in top form. They just match the music so well. And like when he says "we are tyrants," you can just imagine this triumvirate of tyrants overlooking a mountain, this snowy landscape. Really sets the atmosphere. The next track, Demonium, that's one of the Immortal tracks I'm least familiar with, but I've been listening to that a lot lately because the riffing in that is just so good, just so catchy. The riffing interspersed with the drumming, just some really creative, catchy ideas. So Demonium is a fresh and fantastic song for me. Within the Dark Mind is good. Like they're all good. In My Kingdom Cold, that is absolutely brilliant. I think it's at the end of that song where they've got this slow marching rhythm again, which is just headbang material. I think, and ABBA says, "Here we go," and "Here we go again," and it's got this slow marching headbanging riff, similar to, imagine, you know, have you seen the footage of Cannibal Corpse playing Scourge of Iron at Wacken, where it's like an audience of 10,000 people banging their heads to this slow rhythm? That's what In My Kingdom Cold, that's how it ends like. It's a brilliant track. The next track is called Antarctica, and I thought, how ingenious, this band talking about icy kingdoms and cold realms. Only Immortal could write a song about Antarctica, and it's brilliant. I love the lyrics in that song. They just match the music so well. It just invokes the atmosphere. In your mind, you picture being in Antarctica. I do, at least. And yeah, Antarctica, its drama will unfold. Now, the final track on this album, Beyond the North Waves, is brilliant. That's almost introducing a Viking metal element because it's talking about sailing the high seas, you know, sort of a Viking kind of concept behind the song. But the melody, guitar melodies in that song, coupled with the catchy rhythms, just make it so memorable. So that's probably one of my favorite tracks on the album. So yes, as I said, this one took me a while to pick up, but I actually love it. It's one of my favorites. Now, in my ranking, it ranks as 6th at the moment, but I think over time, as I listen to it more, it could move up the ranks. But yeah, for now it's number 6, but as I said, all Immortal albums are brilliant. So you've got the album cover here, all of the lyrics, on the inside. And I like the disc for this one. Very striking. You have the band holding weapons on the white disc. That's cool. Yep, so just to recap, my favorite songs: Tyrants, Demonium, In My Kingdom Cold, and Beyond the North Waves. But the whole album is great. So don't have any reservations about checking this album out. My sixth favorite, and it's a brilliant one, that's Immortal with Sons of Northern Darkness. And just one more album to show today, because as I said, it was after this one that All Shall Fall came out. I don't have that. From what I've heard, it's pretty good. That's where they got Apollyon on bass. That's OJ from Aura Noir, the vocalist and singer. I've met him before, really cool guy, Apollyon. So, but I need to pick up that album. And what do you think of the album All Shall Fall? But then after that, there was a big legal dispute. The band broke up. So Apollyon left, and then Abbott left as well, because there was some legal dispute, and then there's this big court case, and Demonaz won the rights to the band. So Demonaz returned to playing guitar. It's like this revolving door of incestuous members, but yeah, Demonaz returned on guitar and vocals, and Hawk continued on drums, and they put out the first album with this lineup, which is Northern Chaos Gods. Came out a few years ago, and I bought it when it first came out, but to be honest, I haven't listened to it all that much actually, but I think it's a fantastic album. Excuse me. Yeah, what I really love about this album is there's a return to form in terms of speed and aggression. So like with Sons of Northern Darkness, it sort of slowed down to a mid-pace or slow rhythm, but on this album, they go back into the blast beats and the fast aggressive riffs, especially on the opening two tracks, Northern Chaos Gods and Into Battle Ride. They are fantastic. By the way, Demonaz took over on vocals on this. His vocals are similar to Abbott's, but maybe not as monotone and frog-like. So I know some people say Abbott's vocals get on their nerves a bit. Demonaz, it's the same style, but maybe a bit more refined and a bit more shouty. But yeah, it's really cool. Even my brother, who generally hates black metal, he heard the new album, War Against All, and he said, oh, I like the singer's voice. So Demonaz has a great voice. I agree. Hawk's drums are superb again, and then he's going back into the blast beats, his old stuff, so it's fantastic. So yeah, those first two tracks are just awesome. It's like setting the tone, a return to the days of old, Northern Chaos Gods, Into Battle Ride. Gates to Blashirk is brilliant. I love the slow atmospheric part in the middle of that song, and Demonaz with his vocals, like enunciating every syllable and sound perfectly, especially the S's, so good. Now the only thing I'll say about this album is, after the first three tracks, it does sound a little bit samey to me. But like with the song Grim and Dark, but none of the songs are bad. It's just like the songs don't stand out as much to me. However, I really do like Where Mountains Rise. That's got a kind of Bathory-esque mid-pace feel again. And then Mighty Raven Dark, which is sort of like a Blashirk Part 2. Yeah, Blashirk Mighty Raven Dark Part 2. It's absolutely fantastic. But like even the other ones which don't stand out so much, so they are Grim and Dark, Called to Ice, and Blacker of Worlds, they're still good. So like the whole album is at the very least very good in my opinion. But for my favorite tracks, just excellent, which are Northern Chaos Gods, Into Battle Ride, Where Mountains Rise, and Mighty Raven Dark, and oh sorry, Gates to Blashirk. But yeah, awesome album. So all of the lyrics here, pictures of the two members of the band. Yeah, so all I'll say is, to all the naysayers, you know, some people saying, oh, no Abbott, no Immortal, wrong, check this album out, it's great. And for the record, as I've mentioned before, I like both the new Immortal and Abbott's solo project. They're both different. It's a bit like Cannibal Corpse and 6 Feet Under. Instead of one band, now you have two great bands to follow. I know some people don't like 6 Feet Under, but I do. But yeah, really good album, great return to form, and I still want to get the new one. So as I said, yeah, I just haven't got around to getting that, but this is, it's great. Like at the very least, it's very good, but for the standout tracks, it's brilliant, and I can't wait to hear the new one. So in terms of ranking, out of the 8 I'm showing today, this comes in at number 8, not because I think it's bad or it's the worst, but you know, as Paul Stanley said about Kiss songs, you know, with some of the newer songs, they haven't earned their place yet. Then again, when Paul Stanley said that, I think that was Kiss's excuse to play the same old rehashed shitty set list for the last 20 years. But in this case, yeah, I really like the songs, but I just need to get more familiar with them. So it's the least memorable at the moment because I'm the least familiar with these songs, but the album is very, very good. yeah, so there you have it. They're my 8 Immortal albums, finishing off with Northern Chaos Gods. So now, I've spoken about them in chronological order. Now I will just recap with my ranking of the 8. Okay, yep, so just to recap the ranking, coming in at number 8, Immortal with Northern Chaos Gods. Coming in at number 7, At the Heart of Winter. Coming in at number 6, Sons of Northern Darkness. Coming in at number 5, Blizzard Beasts. Coming in at number 4, Damned in Black, great underrated album. Coming in at number 3, Battles in the North. Coming in at number 2, Pure Holocaust. And coming in at number 1, my all-time favorite, Diabolical Fullmoon Mysticism. Right guys, so much to your relief, that's the end of this video. I won't take up any more of your time. Let me know what do you think of the 2 Immortal albums I don't own? What are your favorites? What's your opinion on Immortal? Yeah, let's get some discussion going. But I won't waste any more of your time because this has been a mammoth 45 plus minutes. I'd just like to conclude by saying thank you very much for all of your support of the channel, and I hope you continue to watch. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet and you enjoyed this video. And I was very glad to present this as my final video for the year. Hey guys, how's it going? Back again. I just had a heart attack because when I was in the middle of filming, my phone died. It was out of battery. And once I got the phone up and running again, I thought that the video I had made had actually been wiped, but it just took a while. So that's a great relief. I thought it was 45 minutes wasted for nothing. But anyway, I won't waste any more of your time. I just want to conclude by saying thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your support of the channel. I hope you have a great Christmas and New Year break. Stay safe over the holidays, and I'll see you in the new year. Take care. Cheers.